Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. If you've been keeping an eye on Indian politics, you already know that elections here are massive, incredibly complex undertakings. But today, we're not talking about the massive rallies, the ground campaigns, or the speeches. Today, we are following the money. We are going to look at a genuinely fascinating, purely data-driven report that just dropped from the Association for Democratic Reforms, or the ADR. We're diving deep into the exact financial standing of India's national political parties for the financial year 2023 to 2024. Okay, let's dive right into this. We have a solid roadmap today to follow this cash purely through objective data. We'll start with a multi-crore political landscape. Then we'll be breaking down the wealth, checking out the massive income surge, digging into the actual sources of party income, and finally, we'll wrap up with a look at accountability and financial transparency. Let's get to it. First up, Section 1, the multi-core political landscape. Before we look at the exact figures, I actually want you to think about something. How much money do you think India's national parties made in just one single financial year? When you think about the absolute sheer size of the Indian electorate, and you realize that these war chests are exactly what fund those nationwide ad campaigns and vast ground mobilizations, you'd probably guess a pretty big number, right? Well, the reality of this combined wealth is going to absolutely blow your mind. Here's that number. 5,820.91 crore rupees. That's right, that is the combined total income for all 6 national parties we're looking at today. That includes the BJP, the INC, CPIM, AAP, BSP, and NPEP. All of that just for the financial year 2023 to 2024. Just let the absolute scale of that financial landscape sink in for a second. All right, moving on to Section 2, breaking down the wealth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the wealth gap. Look at this breakdown. The ruling party, the BJP, holds a massive 74.56% of the total income pool. In absolute terms, we are talking about 4,340.47 crore rupees. The Indian National Congress takes the second largest slice, accounting for 26.04%. Which brings in 1,225.11 crore rupees. And then the remaining 4.4% is split among the other 4 national parties. It's like a giant puzzle where one piece takes up almost the entire board. It's a very stark representation of financial concentration in our politics. But making money is just half the story. How are they actually spending it? This side-by-side data tells a super fascinating story about their financial strategies. The BJP spent just over half, basically 50.96% of its earnings. That's 2,211.69 crore rupees spent. Because their overall income is just so incredibly high, this leaves them with a really significant surplus of cash. On the flip side, the Congress spent 1,025.24 crore. Now, while that is technically a smaller absolute number than the BJP's spending, it actually represents a massive 83.69% of their total income. So, the INC has a much higher expenditure-to-income ratio, meaning they are aggressively utilizing the vast majority of the funds they're bringing in. Next up, Section 3, the massive income surge. And this brilliantly illustrates the kind of momentum we're talking about here. Looking at the year-over-year data from the previous financial year to 23-24, the BJP's income surged by 83.85%. They practically doubled their income. We are looking at an absolute increase of 1,979.62 crore rupees in literally a single year. That clearly points to an incredibly strong donor network and massive resource mobilization. But the momentum definitely doesn't stop there. The Indian National Congress also experienced a completely monumental surge. In fact, their percentage growth was even steeper. The Congress Party saw a massive 170.82% surge in their income year over year. That's a huge boost of 772.74 crore rupees. This kind of massive increase strongly suggests the opposition has been busy laying down financial groundwork and gearing up for a much stronger, much better funded political campaign. And just to give you the complete impartial picture of the entire landscape, it wasn't just the top 2 parties seeing growth. The CPIM also had steady financial growth, with their income bumping up by 18.34%. They moved from 141.66 crore to 167.63 crore rupees. So across the board, the financial resources for India's national parties are absolutely expanding. So where is all this cash actually coming from? That brings us to Section 4, sources of party income. The ADR report is absolutely crystal clear on this.
political donations and contributions remain the undisputed heavyweights when it comes to income for national parties. The BJP totally led the way here, bringing in an astounding 3,967.14 crore rupees just from donations alone. The INC follows that with 1,129.66 crore. And then we see a really steep drop-off. The CPIM sits at 74.86 crore, AAP at 22.13 crore, and the NPEP at 17.69 lakh rupees. I mean, the sheer difference in financial backing across the political spectrum is just laid completely bare right here.
But, direct donations aren't the only way these parties fill their war chests. I want to highlight a pretty specific, unique funding method utilized by the INC. According to the data, the Congress Party raised an extra 58.55 crore rupees just through the sale of fundraising coupons. While that might seem like a much smaller piece of the pie overall, it actually makes up 4.78% of their total income. It just goes to show how these alternative, grassroots fundraising methods are successfully supplementing those big primary donation numbers. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Accountability and Financial Transparency. So the absolutely crucial point here is the baseline rule established by the Election Commission of India. Way back in November 2014, the ECI made it completely mandatory for all political parties to submit their audited financial reports annually. For the 2023-24 financial year, the strict deadline for these submissions was October 31st, 2024. Okay, so that was the expectation. But what was the reality? This is where things get really interesting. If you look at this table, it was actually the smaller national parties, the BSP, NPEP, and the AAP, who submitted their audited reports completely on time, 0 days late. However, the major players were significantly delayed. The CPIM was 12 days late, the INC was 53 days late, and the BJP, the party with the most resources by far, was 66 days late in submitting their audited accounts. The ADR report points this out because when the biggest financial players fail to meet these deadlines, it naturally raises some serious concerns regarding overarching financial transparency and accountability in our democratic process. And that brings us to the end of our data journey for today's explainer. We've seen an unbelievable surge in political wealth, absolutely staggering donation numbers, but at the same time, significant delays in financial reporting from the biggest parties in the country. So I want to leave you with this final critical question to think about. With growing wealth and delayed audits, how will financial power shape India's future elections? The data definitely shows us that the political war chests are full, but the transparency seems to be lagging a bit behind. The big takeaway here is that following the money is literally just as important as following the campaigns themselves. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep asking questions, keep digging into the data, and I'll catch you in the next